Mass News on ABC 40.
It was a big day on the flagship campus of the state's largest public university. UMass Amherst has inaugurated its 31st chancellor. Welcome, everyone, to Western Mass News at 4 on this Friday. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Abby Carnevale. Their official installment into the role isn't coming without its own setbacks. And Western Mass News reporter Wesley Days joins us now live from campus. And Wesley, today's events didn't come without some turmoil.
Yeah, there was plenty of it, Abby and Chris. Now, Chancellor Javier Reyes didn't take his oath of office with a lot of cheers and jeers inside the Mullins Center. And as he prepares to continue to step into this role, it's not coming with quite the circumstances. There's history on both sides of this moment. Reyes is the first Hispanic leader of the school, but the newly minted chancellor wasn't the loudest voice in the room, even with a mic.
Divest now! Divest from militarism! Divest from militarism!
Protesters in support of Palestinians during the ongoing Israel-Hamas war are calling on the school to divest from military groups tied to both the school and the conflict and drop charges against protesters who were arrested during previous incidents. Well, they made their mark. They stopped UMass President Marty Meehan and Governor Maura Healey right in their tracks as they gave their remarks. Now, Reyes, who stepped into this role last July, has led the university in one of its most divisive times. But that's not stopping the 31st chancellor from celebrating this moment, but protesters tried to block that.
Today, it is not just my inauguration. It is also the inauguration of the next chapter of our university. Today, we start the journey toward what our next decade looks like.
Well, Western Mass News was among those that witnessed some of the celebrations from inside the Mullins Center. But there's another side to this story. We heard the criticisms. Once those protesters were removed from inside, they greeted inauguration goers as they made their way outside and out of the Mullins Center.
Chancellor Reyes right now can do a lot of things. He could drop the charges for the students who were arrested then, because why persecute them further? He can cut ties with the corporation. We claim to be a revolutionary university. Our slogan is "Be Revolutionary," all this stuff. And it's crazy to me how we can say that with a straight face.
Well, tonight, Abby and Chris, we're hearing from UMass Amherst, specifically from one spokesperson who has told us in part, quote, UMass Amherst stands firmly by the rights of its students, staff, and faculty to exercise the right to free speech under the university's founding values and the protections provided to them under the First Amendment. As shared with demonstrators during today's ceremony, free speech rights do not extend to disruptive behavior that conflicts with the rights of others in attendance to take part in the program, whether as speakers or guests. The demonstrators were asked to leave and did so peacefully. All right, tonight at 6, as you just heard throughout that entire story, free speech was a key part of Chancellor Reyes' inauguration just hours ago right here on the campus of UMass Amherst. You're going to hear from Chancellor Reyes himself as he details free speech and the place that it owns on his campus. Plus, you'll hear more from protesters and professors who are part of this movement. Reporting live at UMass Amherst, Wesley Days, Western Mass News.
Wesley, thank you for that live report.